Donald Trump's tariff agenda is yet again at the top of the world's news bulletins. The American president has slapped a 15% global tariff on imports to the United States after the Supreme Court ruled the unilateral so-called Freedom Day tariffs were illegal. Justin Woofers, welcome to Afternoon Briefing.
Good to see you, mate.
Jamison Greer, the US trade representative, says Trump's new tariff regime is very durable at 15%. Are those tariffs durable?
Geez, that's a lie, isn't it? Let me explain. I mean, it's literally a lie. The Supreme Court ruled the form of tariffs they were using before was unconstitutional from the very start. The president doesn't have any inherent tariff powers. He only has those that Congress lends to him. He's now relying on a different power, but this is a power that allows him to impose up to 15% tariffs if there's a balance of payments crisis and there's an open question whether there is one. And it only allows them to do it for up to 150 days, at which point they have to go back to Congress for reauthorization. And you might think with a Republican Congress that might happen, but that's going to be July, just before the midterm elections, with a set of tariffs that have almost no public support and very little congressional support. So no, this all runs out in 150 days.
Is Donald Trump just going to keep dodging court orders and amending these tariffs for the rest of this term?
So this is not dodging court orders. Again, the president has several powers which have been lent to him by Congress. The Supreme Court said one that you made up, you didn't have. But there are other very legitimate ones. What's changed? The one he made up allowed him to do tariffs on whole countries at a time, across a whole slew of countries. The ones that he actually does have beyond this 150-day one are all vertical. They allow you to take a thin slice of the economy. They're tariffs on goods rather than tariffs on countries. So the aluminium tariffs will live, but a tariff on China, a tariff on Australia, a tariff on Canada will not. He doesn't have those authorities.
What has the news done to markets in the US and overseas?
Right. So the news, this has been something that's been true ever since Liberation Day. Every time Trump leans into his tariff agenda, whether it was on Liberation Day or Liberation Day Mark II, the sequel, 90 days later, markets fell. Every time he leans against it, whether it was 7 days after Liberation Day, the original Taco Day where he backed off, or when the court first intervened, or after the Supreme Court decision, markets rose. And we saw that again, which is this latest Supreme Court decision led markets to rise. And then there's the determination of the Trump administration to push on with even more pointless tariffs than they already have has led markets to fall somewhat. The market responses are getting smaller because all of this now is expected. This is season 2 of Sons and Daughters, which, if you remember, was a lot like season 1. There was love, there was romance, there was betrayal, there was high emotion. But in both seasons, what you had was the same old writer's room with the same old set of tricks getting up to the same old nonsense. And that's what this is.
The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, described the new 15% global tariff as a bridge to more enduring tariffs that will be rolled out later this year. Now, Australia is one of the unlucky countries whose tariffs have actually gone up with this news from 10% to 15%. What do you expect from the permanent replacement to this temporary arrangement?
So this is where what's going to disappear is country-specific tariffs, and what's going to appear in its place is going to be product-specific tariffs. The president's not going to be able to wake up and just say, I don't like Mark Carney and the Canadians, and whack a tariff on them. He's not going to be able to do that to Albo either. And so folks in Canberra need to understand the president doesn't have the cards anymore. Now, the products that he's going to be able to tariff, he actually has fairly narrow legal authorities. It's things like national security. So that's going to get him things like steel and aluminium, but it's not going to get him a broader range of manufactured products. So which products he goes for, the president goes for, that's what will determine how hard this hits Australia.
We know that our Trade Minister, Don Farrell, is about to head to the United States. It's obviously a coincidence in timing, but what should we expect him to achieve?
My advice to the Australian people and to the Australian press is stop pushing for Australian politicians to get FaceTime with anyone. There is almost no world leader who's walked into the White House and walked out feeling better. More than that, there's almost nothing the president could do anyway. This current 150-day authority, by one reading, has to be on every country around the world. By another reading, it doesn't. This remains undetermined. There's really not a lot of wiggle room. And if you think about the set of interests over here in the United States, Australia is a very small part of that set of interests. You've got huge corporations over here. You've got enormous technology companies. You've got Mexico, you've got Canada, you've got China, you've got the European Union. Nothing special's happening for Australia, and that's all right, because you don't want the president to be thinking special things about you.
Donald Trump is about to head to China for talks with Xi Jinping in the next couple of weeks. Has he lost his most potent weapon with the ability to issue tariffs?
Yes. How's that for a long answer?
Well, what does that mean?
Look, so actually, let me explain, because for an Australian audience, this is quite important. The United States hasn't lost any power to issue tariffs. All tariffs are still potentially legal. They're legal if the president can get them through Congress. So the only thing that changed is that the president has to work with Congress. The president has no interest in that. The president has also lost the battle of ideas. And so the American people don't like this policy. And because they don't like the policy, and we've got midterm elections coming up, neither does Congress. So the reality is Congress is not going to do anything to help him, and the president doesn't have a lot of cards. Now, it turns out that when it comes to trade, the president's approach to thinking about it is all wrong, and so therefore many of our instincts are. Trade is fundamentally about cooperation. It makes both sides better off. It turns out both the United States and China would be better off if the US dropped its tariffs. Both the United States and China would be better off if China dropped its tariffs. So this leverage game was it was just getting in the way of what would otherwise be a form of international cooperation.
Justin, always great to get your insights. Thank you.
Great pleasure, mate.